Well, as you've been hearing, France is bracing for a likely winter of discontent, with further strike action on the cards for later this month against the government's controversial pension reform plans. Well, our business editor Kate Moody has been speaking with the French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire from the World Economic Forum in Davos.
Bruno Le Maire, thank you for being with us on France 24 this
morning.
morning.
Thank you.
Thursday saw really huge protests across France. These people are vehemently opposed to the government's renewed attempts to reform the pension system. With that much public opposition, can the government push ahead?
Yes, and we will push ahead because we are determined and we are fully convinced that this reform, this pension reform, is a necessity to guarantee this pension system for the next generations. So everybody can understand that there are some protests. We are a big democracy, so there are opponents. Everybody can understand that some people do not understand what we intend to do and ask for improvements in the proposal that we put on the table, but we will stand firm. We are open, of course. There will be a discussion in the French Parliament, and there might be some improvements in our proposal. It is up to the MPs to decide. The single point on which I would like to insist as the finance minister is that we have to guarantee that at the end of the game, we don't have deficit anymore for this pension system.
Well, the pension system isn't currently in deficit, though. It's what the projections are.
Yes, but the projections is what we are responsible for. And we want in 2030 to have the pension system getting rid of those deficits. Because if you want to have a strong pension system, you have to get rid of the deficits.
You say that there may be improvements to the proposals that you've put forward. Are there areas that the government is or is not willing to compromise on?
This is once again up to the MPs to decide what are the margin of maneuver, what are the improvements that might be required. It is time for the Parliament to take decisions and to make proposals. As the finance minister, I just want to recall that one of the strategic purposes of this reform is to have something which is balanced without any deficit by 2030.
One of the reasons that people are opposed to the reform at the moment is the timing, this period of high food and energy costs that are really putting households and businesses under strain. France's inflation stood at 6.7% in December on the harmonized EU scale. It's low compared to other European countries, but it is still a real strain. Are you sure this is the right time to be pushing ahead?
You know, it's always very difficult to push ahead a pension reform system. Pension reform. So we are aware of that, but the households, all the French people can also rely on the state's support as far as inflation is concerned. We have taken the strongest decisions of all European countries in protecting the people, protecting the companies against the high level of prices on gas and electricity. We have put in place an energy shield for all the French households, and we will keep that energy shield for 2023. So we are very much aware of the difficulties for the households. We are very much aware that inflation is hitting many of the French people, and that's why we have decided to keep that protection.
France has been rather vocal in the last few months in criticizing America's Inflation Reduction Act, which outlined huge green subsidies for products that are made in America. In December, President Macron described it as very aggressive. Just yesterday, he was calling for a new European response plan. We did hear from Ursula von der Leyen here in Davos earlier this week with her own clean tech industrial plan. Is that enough?
I think it's the right response. And I would like really to underline that we are exactly on the same line with President Ursula von der Leyen. Macron made very clear there is a need for a quick, efficient and effective response to the Inflation Reduction Act. And I really think that the single response that we need to give to that decision is to put in place a new industrial policy for Europe, based on simpler rules, based on Buy European Act, based on new subsidies for some very limited but key strategic sectors like chips, hydrogen, solar panels, renewable energies. On all those topics, all those sectors, if we want to be more independent and more sovereign, we need that new industrial policy.
And so do von der Leyen's proposals match those expectations?
I think that this matches our expectations. We are on the right direction. The key point for Europe is to decide quickly. Not only deciding, but deciding quickly.
Bruno Le Maire, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you so much.